know that Pastor Stewart is the senior pastor and establisher of Empowerment Church in Southfield, Michigan. I don't know if we have the phone number available. You want to give them some contact information, Pastor, on you?
Yeah, 234, the number is 248-234-8359. That's a direct line there where you can reach the church, or you can go on the website at www.empowerment, all small letters, empowerment, M-I, meaning Michigan, empowermentmi.org. You can go to the website and get information, access the web streaming program and get other information, and their contact numbers there as well.
And I know you have quite a few ministries. I attend the Church Heritage Christian Center that is very, very involved in the community. I know your church has always been very, very involved in the community. As a matter of fact, I remember you telling me that model where you actually went out into the community to get people who were already doing stuff like dance troupes and basketball teams and the Montessori school that you had, and you invited those people into your edifice that they might have some place to congregate. Right. So,
absolutely.
Just so people will know that, we got a lot of people that think that the church is not doing anything and the church is not relevant. I beg to differ with them. All my experiences with the churches that I have been involved with have been very, very people-oriented, very, very approachable, very, very touchable. I know Dr. Stewart is very, very touchable. I know he's a very, very busy man, but most of the times when I go to Detroit, we get a chance to just sit down and chop it up. We've been 60-year friends, and we don't always talk about church, but church is relevant.
Yes.
And you got a very, very powerful ministry there in Southfield, Michigan. I don't know, you guys meeting online now?
Yeah, we got the Zoom format that we're meeting. We're still conducting ministry, Bible study online. As I said, the web streaming services on Sunday. I was doing manna in the morning for a while, and I'm going to go back to that. I had to do some other things that I had on my plate, but continuing to reach out to the community. And I do believe that the church is still relevant. Every church cannot be a mega church.
Right.
A lot of people look at the mega church model and say, if you're not that, then you're not anything. And I say that the average size, as we've talked about before over lunch, the average size of many of the churches in the United States of America, about 150 members plus some, maybe, or less. Mm-hmm. And I had a discussion some time ago with a person that was mentioning about the pastors not doing anything in terms of social justice and all these things. And my response was, pastors who are ministering in churches are caretaking the souls of their members, and they are actively involved. And many of them don't have the time to march on the front lines and to advocate and do all that stuff. In fact, I can tell you the numbers of times that I've stood in court to advocate for a young man who may have been wrongfully accused of something. That's a form of activism and advocacy.
Right.
That pastors do in relationship to their congregations that many people on the outside looking in don't understand. Right. We get a lot of criticism about what we don't do and what we don't do and all of that kind of stuff. And this is another thing that amazes me, particularly from critiques. And some of it's justified. But many pastors are struggling to meet the needs of their congregations. They don't have massive budgets. They're just working from day to day to make ends meet, to speak life and love to their members. And they're not always having the luxury or the time to kind of go out and be involved in all these different things because they're caring for the souls and the lives of the people that they're called to serve.
Amen.
And if people were to enter into that world and understand that what it means to be a pastor. Now, a pastor is the last of the generalists. When we look vocationally, everything is specialization.
Right.
You go to the doctor's cardiologist or the OBGYN or whatever it is, specialization in terms of vocation and profession. Pastors are the last of the generalists. You got to be a doctor. You got to be a counselor. You got to be a fundraiser. You got to be an administrator. You got to be all of these different things rolled into one, which is a challenge.
Yes.
If you don't have the expertise of the people who have gifts in those areas who can come and serve in those areas, pastor becomes the go-to person for virtually everything. So we need to develop a little bit more sensitivity, I think, in terms of what pastors are doing in terms of meeting the needs of everyday folk. Somebody said, well, we go through Detroit, we see all these churches. What are all these churches doing? I said, why don't you enter into their life space and see what they're doing?
See what they're doing.
See what they're doing before you make a judgment, because you don't know what's going on in terms of caretaking. And now with COVID, many of those churches have had to close because they've had resources. I think it's easy to render a critique about the church's relevancy when you're not involved. Now, it's different if you're involved and you see where the church has all these resources. Like one guy told me one year we were having a shop talk about ministry. He said, well, we got $3 million in our church budget. I said, $3 million. I said, well, what are you doing with the $3 million? Well, some people have museum curation ministries where the church is a museum.
Right.
And it's the preservation of artifacts, but ain't nothing happening in the community in terms of lives of God's people. Right. How you got that kind of money sitting in your budget and you don't have some kind of feeding?
Right.
Or what you were saying in terms of reaching out beyond the four walls, that's when you get into critique mode. You got these resources sitting in the bank or in your investment portfolio, but you're not doing anything to help folk with it. That may be a rare example, but I'm saying we have to utilize the resources that we have to help people. That's part of the kingdom